Hello and welcome to a demo of EFI MarketDirect Cross Media. I will show you how easy it is to create a multi-channel campaign involving print, email, and web/mobile media. Let's start. So we enter our credentials and log into that server environment here. The first thing we see is the dashboard, which always gives us an overview about the current account and the current data environment or campaign database which we have on that account. In our case, it's just a single one, the standard environment here, and it shows us that we have 112 leads in that campaign, also 112 leads engaged via email or other outbound media like text messaging or print. We got 28 responders, so that's a rough overview. We also use the survey in the campaign, and I will show you how to set this up. And we see the results here, and we see statistics of the emails which has been sent to our audiences. And there has been a lot of emails already sent, and we can actually also go here and select certain email links or have a look for all emails. So let's start. Click on New Campaign, and we come to the wizard, which allows us to create a campaign in 5 easy steps. The first step is data. Here we have the option to upload either a new campaign or just use one of the existing campaigns. We can upload campaigns from Excel files or CSV files. We can also synchronize databases with CRM systems like Microsoft or Salesforce, but for now we just go with the accounts we have here installed on that system. The next step shows the Archetype Campaign. This is not what it has to be in the end. That can be extended with another 100 activity touch points, websites, whatever. But in the actual real world, a cross-media campaign consists of inbound activities, in that case, like for example an email and a print document. And another very important inbound activity could be lead generation. Let's suppose you are doing billboards or display ads. You lead the people to a certain landing page, and on that landing page we want to allow them to register themselves for the campaign. They're all linking to our landing page here, and we got a final page to say thank you for taking place. As well, the system automatically creates for us 1 or 2 reminder emails which can be sent out after the initial send. On the landing page, we will now add another survey as a way to learn more about our prospects. Next step, we select a theme. Themes are a pretty new thing in MarketDirect Cross Media, and they allow you to quite easily start with something. So there is already a layout, there's already a way how to build the graphics, which is completely flexible and can be changed entirely later on if you want to. But also you can build themes for customers you have. Normally you don't do just a single campaign, there are multiple campaigns, and therefore themes can be very handy, either for you to easily build campaigns for that clients, or for the clients themselves to configure them on their behalf on your system. So let me click on the real estate here. The next step is company data. The company data is kind of a shared data across all the different medias, and especially the websites and the emails. So it goes into all the footers and the logo can be replaced automatically. The next step is the last step. Just name that campaign. So let me call it Demo 2. The system now automatically scaffolds the campaign which we have selected. So it creates all the media for print, web, and email, as well as it creates an automation workflow which reflects the 2 outbound communications which we have selected here. So here we go. We got our invitation email. We have an invitation postcard pointing to the landing page, and that's automatically set up. Also, there's the possibility to manually set up the link from the QR code here to the landing page as well. We got a lead generation page which points us directly to the final page. These are real links, and when I change a link here in the storyboard, for example for the email, and I do that, and I put it to the final page, for example, then the email will automatically point to that final page. Let's have a look first how to create and how to design the media. When we start on the top left here in the invitation email, we will see a screen which is split into 3 areas. On the right hand side, we have the email layout. On the middle side, we see what we call the tree, which is actually represent all the objects on the page, and I will later on show you how that can be handled. And on the far left side, we have the property panes with all the graphical properties of the certain elements here. So on the right hand side, we have a very easy way to deal with layout. For example, when we just click in the text box, we can start to type. So we can remove the U here and replace it, for example, with a first name on my campaign database. My campaign database is, by the way, the database that has already been on the system. I can always look in it when I go to the data menu here and go to campaign database. Here we see our first record. In that case, the name, a little bit correct the name back to Chris. And we have our 112 records here. So let's go back to our web media, go to the storyboard and click on the email. So when we click here on the top to data, it will actually populate the data into our layout and we can move through the database. The email designs which I can design here, which already has been prepared for us, are completely responsive. So we can just click on mobile here to see how that page would look on a mobile device. We also have the ability to move the page. Images, we can simply click on the image and as well select a different image and exchange this one. Taking one with the same size might look a little bit better in the email. That's the basic design. When we talked about the themes, themes actually deliver us stripes. So stripes are all elements on the root level in our tree here. So this is one. We got the header, that's a stripe. We got the action, it's a stripe here, and we got the whole block with the 2 images and the text as a stripe. So what we can do is, even on the later on for your user on the buyer side, for example, and also here we can pick another stripe from that theme and insert it here. So let's talk about an email newsletter. It's extremely easy to put a new article, to put a new product in here, and then go in here, change the images, change the text. So that level of editing extremely handy. Let's have a look how this looks, not for emails but for websites. For emails, just to say, most important is we check that kind of layout on all the major clients, of all the major email clients of mobile devices, and make sure that even the responsiveness looks great. Let's go back to the storyboard and have a look at the landing page here. This is actually the same way, but offers quite a little bit more of flexibility and features. So we have our layout on the right hand side here, which is the landing page, and we actually can edit that one in line easily, even with using the data or just type, change the images, all the same like we've seen before. And we also have the ability to change more deeper in the layout. So let's, for example, again, insert a stripe here. Let's have a look if we got a featured product, something like here, the detached house with the garden. Click on that one. And so we got a new product here. This is actually our representation in the tree, which we see here. And we could, for example, in that grid, swap the columns, and they will swap in the layout as well. We also could go to the entire stripe, and let's, for example, say we want to insert a border here. So let's make a border, give it a bright color, and put it to thick. And so that one now gets a border. That's the basic idea of how all that layouts are done. And what's really interesting is that we now can say that on a tablet device, we want to actually have the same border, but with a slightly different color. So when we now change the devices here, then this color will change. We also can use the mobile tablet simulation up here. To give you a little bit more insight about how that tree works, I will go back to the storyboard and just create another media here to illustrate that. So let's go to the media and say we want to insert, let's say, the expired page, which will appear automatically when the campaign is not valid anymore. We added that. Dragging that to the storyboard, we can then as well click on it and edit that expire page. We now can go and remove everything in the tree. So actually there is no layout anymore, and we can start building something from scratch. For example, taking the grid here, which creates us 2 grid columns. And also here we can now go in there and, for example, add a headline here. On the other grid cell we click, and let's in that case go to background and say we want to actually use an uploaded image for the background image. We can pick one of the images from the list or upload our own image. This grid is completely responsive by its own. You also could use simple vertical groups, for example, put as well a headline in here. We can go for a text, or maybe actually add some responsive video container to that, which shows us the new EFI Nozomi. And this is basically the way, and you see even that it's all stays to be responsive by nature. So all the abilities you have to build the great layouts is all based on that tree concept, which always gives you a nice way to see the structure. And it's quite easy to work with all the elements and all the responsive. One other interesting thing is when you say working with data is what we had already is that we can go into the headline, and by right click we have the campaign database on our fingertips. So we insert the first name here and the last name, maybe do a space in between, and when we go to data again, we see this one is changing. What we also can do is we can work with something we call switches. Switches are defined as well as complex variables as well in the data tab, and when we go to switches here, we already have 2 switches, and one is boys and one is girls. I can easily add another one here, but we also can have a look what it does. So the boy switch simply goes and looks up the salutation column of our database and asks if this equals Mr. The girl switch does nearly the same, just asking if this is a Mrs. or a Miss. Whenever one of these switches is true, they're turning on. So let me go through the database. We see now the boys is off, that's the girl is on. With John Doe, the boys is on, and the girls is already showing that in a way because we selected it. So when we go to a record which has Mrs. here, we see that the girls turn on and the boys turned off. So there we got the both switches. Since we have them, we now can use them. So let's use that navigation, go to our expired page here, and let's say that we only wanted to see that headline, for example, when we have a boy. So we go to the features list here and we look up visibility. This is visibility and switch. In visibility, we could say, for example, that should not appear on a tablet. When I turn it off, it goes away, but it comes back when we're on a mobile device, or when we're on a desktop device, it comes back as well. But what we want to do is we want to have a switch. So we say, okay, let's use the boys switch here, and this variable is now visible. But when we use our data navigation here and we come to a record which is actually not a boy, then it disappears from the layout. So that's basically where you can steer any element in that system to turn it on and off. Back to the storyboard, having a look on the last kind of media which is available here, and that's a sprint. So when we load the postcard which was pre-installed from the template, we got a fully fledged print design tool, which allows us to build VDP documents here. Let's say, for example, we want to go in here and want to start working with our text frame. We can do so and change colors, fonts, text, and also, of course, we are able to work with the fields from our database, which we can insert here and there. And we got a preview, of course, go through the records and directly see how it will populate. And what you see here is, for example, that the size of the text gets smaller when the text gets longer. Some of the very powerful tools in the VDP print designer here are for example, not only the sizing of the text, the automatically shrink and grow, what we see here, but also the frame styles like we have in the print, same like in the web, where all kind of text styles and paragraph styles can be organized in a cascading way for text. This is extremely powerful and a great engine to work with the fonts and text styles. And another really powerful tool here is the layer system. So let's just create 2 new layers, and one layer I would like to call the boys layer to correspond with the switches we already have created, and this one I call the girls layer. And what I can do now, I select the layer and insert an image here. On that layer, you see now this image is exactly on that layer, and the same we do with the girls layer. Take a different image, put it on here as well. What we now can do is we can select the switch. So we can select the boy switch for that layer and the girl switch for the other layer. Now, depending on which record we are on, the image will toggle and the corresponding layer, as you see far right down, as well. So the dotted line indicates that this layer is not visible right now. So extremely easy to build complex VDP documents which can change languages, styles, everything, just depending on simple rules. QR codes, for example, are quite easy to insert here, not only QR, but also other kinds of codes, as we see in the list here, the postcodes. They're also extremely easy to use because this is just one system. This is a campaign which shares a joint database. And when I put this QR code in here, it automatically works because it automatically connects this printed piece with a landing page. So let's save the campaign. Now let's have a look how we can kick off the campaign. We see a lot of workflows already on that system. We got demo 2. This is automatically created workflow for the campaign we just have done. So the system, depending on the media we choose, create us kind of a generic workflow to do that. It all starts with the campaign database. We got all 112 records, which is in our database. When I click on it, I see them down here. And we have 2 initial activities here, an email and a direct mail piece, which needs some configuration. That's the reason why it's red. So let's have a look at the initial email. The email will be sent, and then the result will create 2 buckets. That's the thing we call buckets here, which is extremely important for all the kind of automation and filtering and working with data in the system. The initial email receiver and the initial email failed. So we can rename that buckets whatever you like, but whenever I send out an email, either somebody gets the email or it don't get the email. So that's the reason why all the successful sent emails will go to that buckets and the non-successfully sent will go to that buckets. So we could say everyone I could send an email to, I might want to send a printed piece, for example. So the initial email receiver then, we wait a couple of days, 3 days in that case here. So we can also set this from 3 days to, let's say 15 minutes. So we might, can see that during the demo, and then the reminder email is sent out as well. The second initial task is a direct mail piece, which is a postcard we have edited. So I need to select the workflow from the VDP backend, which then can direct rendered PDF to hot folders, a Fiery, or other places. You also be able to not send the print pieces to the digital workflow, but also you can send them to Dropbox, or you can send people a link via an email or to a Google Drive. So plenty of ways to get your documents printed from your service provider or from yourself. So that direct mail goes to the workflow, and in the end flows to one bucket, which is everyone who's been sent to the workflow. What I would like to do is I would like to delete that connection and show you how to filter that and how to work with the workflow. Let me just move them around a little bit to the right here, so we got some space. And on the left hand side we see the buckets. That's the thing you already saw, and since the workflow does not necessarily have to start with the database, it could also start with the bucket from another workflow, which was the resulting bucket. And we have filters. In that case, I will take the contains filter, very simple one. Contains, just simply I can ask if some database field contains a certain value, and depending if it contains, a result goes to matches or to non-matches. So let's click on contains. We can select here the, let's say I take the first name and I ask if the first name contains Chris. And now I connect this to my database. And for all the matches, I want to send the initial email. The non-matches I'm not so interested in right now. But I also could, for example, let's say the non-matches, all the not Chris's, I want to send a printed piece, which I could do by simply delete that connection and move the printed piece here and connect it via that. So as you see, it's extremely easy to build that logic here. When we execute that filter, or better to say execute the entire workflow, the system will automatically do that, filter all the Chris's, send the email, and start it. So let's click on start workflow here. So the green bar indicates that the workflow is running, and immediately it refreshes the filter here. So we got two matches. Let's click on the bucket, and we see we got two persons where Chris is in the first name, and one has my email address. So it goes to the initial email. One email receiver was determined, which is the one with an email. The other one was failed because that second record doesn't have an email. And this is when we have a look in the events, and we will see invalid to address, which is the reason. But we also see here that this one is actually failed. So the email is sent out now, and now it goes to the reminder email. So when we open up the email in the browser, it looks like it's supposed to. Also open up in my mobile phone to see that this is looking pretty well. And now I'm clicking to come to the landing page and got my information here, and as well the little survey form, which pre-populates the data of the current record. So the preferred communication channel is phone here. When we look back in the CrossMedia, we see that the preferred channel is phone here as well. Let's change that to print and submit the form. We come to the landing page here, and we see the live change when we click again on the bucket. Have a look for the preferred channel again, and it's now print. So it's live updated. So everything is tracked in real time. All the events that the user has visited the page, opened the email, everything is there and goes directly and automatically to the dashboard, where we, by the way, have now a little bit of shift in the preferred communication channel. And here are the other results from our survey. As well, we can have a look at the statistics for our beautiful emailing. That was Demo 2 invitation emails. And that has sent 1 and 5 times opened. Yeah, that was I during the WebEx. Clicked multiple times on the email, so we got more opens than sends. But basically we got the honest and real statistics here. So as you see, we have built a campaign which contains of the parts of printed pieces, emails. We have set up landing pages, a survey. So it's a complete round trip to the world of cross-media marketing. And thanks for listening and watching. Bye-bye.